A silver car pulled up on a deserted roadside in a Mumbai suburb. There were 3 people in the car: a mother, her ex-husband, and a young woman. Sheena Bora, 25, had no idea that the ride would be the end of her life. Just a few hours later, Sheena's body was wrapped in a bag and taken to the Raigad hills, nearly 100 kilometers away. In a forest clearing, in the dark of night, the mother and 2 men quietly poured petrol and burned her daughter's body, as if she had never existed. Sheena was missing. No one reported it. No one searched. And strangely, her biological mother, Indrani Mukerjea, still appeared on television, continued her wealthy life, still introduced Sheena to everyone as her sister. It was not until 3 years later that the terrible secret was exposed, thanks to a surprising confession from the chauffeur. Why would a mother kill her own daughter? What happened on that fateful bus ride? And what secrets are hidden behind the glamorous facade of an upper-class family? Join us as we follow every clue, every testimony, to understand what turned a mother into a murderer. Indrani Mukerjea, real name Sheena Bora, was born into a wealthy family in Assam, northeastern India. Beautiful, ambitious, and intelligent, she left her hometown at a young age, with the desire to change her life at any cost. After a first marriage to Siddhartha Das, a man with whom she bore 2 children, but never acknowledged in public, Indrani continued to enter the high life through calculating relationships. One of the 2 children was Sheena Bora, born in 1987. Sheena grew up with her grandparents in Guwahati and was raised without parents. To her neighbors, she was a granddaughter. To her mother, who had long since left, she was a burden from the past that needed to be hidden. As an adult, Sheena moved to Mumbai to attend college and started living near her mother. Now Indrani Mukerjea, a well-known figure in the media industry. She is the CEO of Inks Media, a young but powerful media empire, and her new husband, Peter K. Mukerjea, former CEO of Star India. In Mumbai, Sheena lives with her younger brother, Mikhail Bora, whose identity Indrani also hides, and they are both introduced to society as cousins. Sheena works at Mumbai Metro 1, a steady-paying administrative job. She is young and friendly, but she always feels controlled. Every relationship, from work to private life, everything is monitored by the woman who calls her sister, but is actually her biological mother. And here, when she starts a love affair with Rahul, Peter Mukerjea's son, fate begins to change. Mumbai Metro 1 project office. The job was not spectacular, but it was stable. She lived modestly in a small rented apartment, shared with her younger brother Mikhail, who had come from Assam to study. Although not as luxurious as her mother's house, this was the only place where Sheena could be her true self. In 2011, Sheena Bora was a 24-year-old girl who had just graduated and started working in the office. To outsiders, Indrani Mukerjea is a loving, supportive older sister. But to Sheena, she controls everything, from money, phone calls to relationships. Anyone Sheena meets or knows must go through Indrani. She has complained to friends many times that she doesn't let me breathe. The biggest conflict began when Sheena openly fell in love with Rahul Mukerjea, Peter's stepson. The relationship, in theory, was between 2 young lovers. But in reality, it was between the wife's biological daughter and the husband's stepson, if their true identities were revealed. Indrani was vehemently opposed. She called and sent lengthy text messages to Sheena and Rahul, warning them of dire consequences. She said that Sheena was undeserving, that Rahul was just a loser living off his father, that the relationship would ruin the family's reputation. Sheena did not back down. On the contrary, she became stronger, more determined. She and Rahul began planning to get married and move out. She once told her brother, "I will tell everything. I cannot live in a lie forever." It was then that Indrani began to grow colder. Whenever Sheena called, she would be curt or say she was busy. She began to talk about sending Sheena abroad, cutting off Rahul, and even threatening to cut off financial aid to Mikhail as a way to force both siblings to keep quiet. Sheena still refused to give in. She made an appointment to meet her mother privately, saying she wanted to have a frank discussion to get everything clear. The appointment was set for April 24, 2012, and that was the last time anyone saw Sheena Bora alive. That morning, Sheena woke up earlier than usual. She put on a neat dark blue dress, put on some light makeup, and sent a text message to Rahul. "I'll talk to her tonight. I need to be decisive." Sheena had arranged to meet her mother, Indrani Mukerjea, for dinner at a restaurant in Bandra, Mumbai. According to Rahul, Sheena was determined. She had brought her phone and some personal documents with her, intending to ask her mother to recognize her true identity and accept her relationship with Rahul. Around 6 p.m., Indrani sent a private car to pick Sheena up. The driver was Sheena Bora, Indrani's personal chauffeur for many years. There was another man in the car, Sanjeev Khanna, Indrani's ex-husband, who had flown into Mumbai from Kolkata that morning. According to traffic camera data and phone signals, the car carrying Sheena did not stop at any restaurant. Instead, it drove straight to Indrani's private residence in Worli. There, according to the CBI's later indictment, Sheena was drugged and strangled with a scarf by her own mother, with the help of Sanjeev and the driver Rai. The murder happened quickly. In less than an hour, Sheena was dead in the apartment she once believed was her safest place. That night, the car carrying Sheena's body, wrapped in a bag, left Mumbai and traveled more than 90 kilometers to the Raigad hills. In a deserted stretch of forest, the three men set fire to Sheena's body, burned it with petrol, and buried it in a shallow pit. No one called to report her missing. No one filed a police report. For Indrani, the incident never happened. And for the next 3 years, she continued to appear regularly in public as a model businesswoman and an ideal mother. Meanwhile, her daughter's body was burned and buried deep in the ground, waiting to be found one day. The Worli Seaface apartment where Indrani Mukerjea lived with her husband was quiet that night. The building's security cameras only recorded Indrani's car coming and going, showing nothing unusual. But inside, a cold murder had been planned. According to the driver Sheena Bora's testimony later, as soon as Sheena entered the house, Indrani gave her a drink containing a high dose of sedative. Within minutes, Sheena began to lose control. Her limbs were shaking. Her eyes were glazed over. She was helped into the bedroom, where Indrani, with the help of Sanjeev Khanna, strangled her with a shawl. The death was silent. No screams, no struggle. Just 3 people, and one victim completely unconscious, unable to resist. When Sheena stopped breathing, they stuffed her body into a large duffel bag. Indrani ordered the apartment to be cleaned thoroughly. Then, the 3 waited until after midnight to quietly take the bag down to the car, wrapping it tightly with cloth and deodorant to mask the smell of the corpse. The car left Mumbai around 2 a.m. on April 25th. Rai was driving. Sanjeev was in the passenger seat, and Indrani was still dressed and made up as if she had just left a party, constantly checking her phone. At around 4:30 a.m., they reached the Gagod Kurd Hills in Raigad district, a remote area with no cameras or passers-by. In a dry forest ravine, they poured petrol and set fire to Sheena's body. The fire flared up, but was not strong enough to completely burn her. They used sticks and stones to lightly hit the remaining body parts, then buried the body in sand and dry leaves. The 3 of them returned to Mumbai before sunrise. Indrani went about her day as usual. She called her partners, answered emails, and in the afternoon texted Rahul Mukerjea, "Sheena has left. She doesn't want to meet anyone." A few days later, she announced to her colleagues that Sheena had flown to the US to study. People were surprised, but not suspicious, because she was still smiling, still calling her daughter little sister, and still controlling all information channels related to Sheena. Sheena Bora, a young, ambitious woman, was erased from life, from records, from the memories of her entire family, just because her mother did not want her reputation to be damaged. But what Indrani did not expect was, the truth, even though buried deep in the ground, would one day rise to the surface. And the first person to reveal that secret was her most loyal driver. 3 years have passed since that fateful night. No one has called the police. Not a single story has appeared in the newspapers. To her friends and colleagues, Sheena Bora has simply gone abroad. A person who has disappeared without a word and has been replaced by a silence that is almost frightening. Sheena's younger brother Mikhail called his sister many times but got no response. Sheena's lover Rahul tried every way to contact her, even going to Indrani's house to ask. But she always replied firmly, "She doesn't want to see you anymore. Forget it." Until August 2015, when a man named Shyamvar Rai was arrested for illegal possession of a gun. During interrogation, Rai, who was Indrani's personal driver, began to show signs of abnormality. When asked irrelevant questions, he blurted out a sentence that silenced the entire interrogation room. "I know about a murder. A murder of a daughter by her own mother." Rai's confession stunned the police. Over the next several hours, he detailed what happened on the night of April 24, 2012. From picking up Sheena, to strangling her, to burning her body in Raigad. He left out no detail. An investigation team was immediately formed. Following Rai's tip, the police went to the Raigad Kurd forest. After 3 years, the body had almost completely decomposed, leaving only bones and a few burnt marks. However, through forensic techniques and DNA testing, they confirmed that it was Sheena Bora. The disappearance was converted into a murder case. On August 25, 2015, Indrani Mukerjea was arrested at her home in Mumbai. 2 days later, her ex-husband Sanjeev Khanna was arrested in Kolkata. The whole country was shocked. A famous CEO, a model mother in the eyes of the public, now a suspect in the murder of her own daughter. Newspapers were filled with headlines. Sheena Bora, 3 years of silence, a stinking corpse from the past. Indrani Mukerjea, the murderer in a silk dress. The case was formally opened, and India was about to witness one of the most thrilling and brutal trials in modern judicial history. When Maharashtra police reached the site in the Raigad forest area, Rai said the area was almost completely covered by nature. A shallow pit filled with rotten leaves, tree roots and ash was where they began their excavation. Under the soil, they found a skull, part of a jaw, several long bones that had been burned, and pieces of plastic that had been warped by the heat. The stench of the old corpse still lingered, 3 years after it had passed. All the specimens were carefully collected, numbered, sealed, and sent to the forensic laboratory in Mumbai. After several days of analysis, the DNA test results confirmed that the skeleton belonged to Sheena Bora. This was the first and most important physical evidence that not only confirmed Sheena's death, but also completely refuted Indrani's excuse that Sheena had gone to America to live freely. In addition, one detail that caught the attention of the forensic experts: the skull had signs of fractures due to strong force in the neck area, consistent with the mechanism of death by strangulation. The ribs also had signs of slight fractures, proving that the victim had been compressed in a narrow space after death. Experts determined that the body had been burned for less than an hour, not enough to destroy the entire bone structure, and had been temporarily buried, indicating that the perpetrator was not a professional, but someone who wanted to handle things quickly in the dark of night. At the same time, investigators seized location data from the phones of Indrani, Sanjeev and Rai, which showed that all of them were present in the Raigad area at exactly midnight on April 24th to 25th, 2012. Combining testimony, DNA, and digital data, Maharashtra police painted a clear picture. Sheena Bora did not disappear. She was murdered by her mother in a luxury apartment in the heart of Mumbai. then burned and buried like trash. And the most horrifying thing is, for the next 3 years, the mother continued to attend events, take pictures, and speak on television, while her daughter's body was rotting on the cold ground. With the shocking testimony of driver Sheena Bora, along with physical evidence from the excavated skeleton, Mumbai police officially opened a comprehensive investigation into the murder case with Indrani Mukerjea as the prime suspect. In the early days of her arrest, Indrani denied all charges. She repeatedly claimed that Sheena was alive, studying in the United States, and that her reputation was being harmed. However, when police presented DNA evidence, phone tracking, and cross-examination from Rai and Sanjeev Khanna, her veneer of confidence began to crack. Investigators focused on 3 key points. 1. Motive for murder. Indrani is believed to have killed her own daughter to hide her true identity, that Sheena was not her sister, but her stepdaughter with Siddhartha Das. The fact that Sheena was in love with Rahul, the stepchild of her current husband, Peter Mukerjea, meant that the relationship would be exposed, seriously affecting Indrani's image, social status, and marriage. 2. Pre-planned plot. Phone records show that Indrani contacted Sanjeev Khanna multiple times before the date. Committed the crime. Sanjeev's flight ticket from Kolkata to Mumbai was also booked in advance. In addition, CCTV at the apartment building recorded Rai entering the building at the exact time the crime took place. 3. Indirect witnesses and electronic data. Rahul Mukerjea provided Sheena's last text messages, which indicated that she was meeting her mother for a last talk. In addition, call logs between Indrani and her staff after the crime showed unusual actions such as canceling Sheena's SIM card, accessing her personal email, and sending fake text messages. One of the most notable details, after Sheena's death, Indrani continued to use her daughter's phone number and email address to text Rahul, pretending that Sheena had voluntarily left. This action, when traced to the IP and location of the device, became crucial incriminating evidence. In addition, the victim's brother, Sheena Bora from Assam, also spoke out. During his testimony, Sheena said that Indrani had suggested drugging him and sending him to a mental hospital if he continued to question her about his sister. This suggests that the attempt to silence her did not stop at Sheena, but also targeted the only remaining witness in the family. The investigation quickly escalated into a complex criminal case involving several prominent media figures. Indrani's current husband, Peter Mukerjea, was summoned and later arrested on suspicion of concealment of a crime and aiding in the commission of a crime. The police concluded that this was an organized, carefully planned murder, with the consent of at least 3 people: Indrani Mukerjea, Sanjeev Khanna, and Sheena Bora. And with all the evidence collected, the case officially entered the prosecution stage.
On August 25th, earlier in the day at the Khar police station,
Mumbai
and Indrani's current husband, Sheena Mukerjea too, was in the police station for 30 minutes. He was asked to confront his wife Indrani, but he refused. He's also told the cops that he was abroad visiting his adopted daughter Vidhi at the time Sheena was murdered.
And cameras captured Indrani, who had always appeared with an image of luxury and power, being
Peter
escorted
Mukerjea
into a
also
police car in
presented
civilian
a
clothes. Her
signed
face no
statement,
longer
which we are
confident.
told has
Just a day later, Sanjeev Khanna was arrested in Kolkata. Despite living separately for many years, he had remained in close contact with Indrani, and phone records and Rai's testimony suggested his direct role on the night of the murder. Just a day later, Sanjeev Khanna was arrested in Kolkata. Despite living separately for many years, he had remained in close contact with Indrani, and phone records and Rai's testimony suggested his direct role on the night of the murder. In November of the same year, Indrani's current husband, Peter Mukerjea, was also arrested. Although he did not directly participate in the murder, he was accused of knowing the truth but not confessing, and may have indirectly assisted in handling the aftermath, such as transferring money, canceling the SIM, and keeping quiet when questioned by Rahul. Peter's arrest caused a stir, as he was the CEO of Star TV, one of India's largest media empires. The image of him entering the court in prison clothes, silent and disheveled, became a symbol of the downfall of an entire powerful family. Indrani was held in Bikola prison, which houses many female criminals with serious sentences. During this time, she was rushed to the emergency room on suspicion of poisoning, went on hunger strike to protest her detention conditions, and wrote a petition to the Prime Minister seeking a fair trial. As the trial officially began in 2017, the whole of India watched every testimony, every development that unfolded in the courtroom. No more rumors, no more hypotheses. Now the whole truth had to be laid before the scales of justice. Indrani Mukerjea remained arrogant in the early days of her trial. She refused to plead guilty, insisted that Sheena was still alive, and even accused the police of fraud and framing. However, things changed quickly when the driver Sheena Bora, a key witness, was called to the witness stand. Rai recounted every action on the night of April 24, 2012. How Indrani invited Sheena into the car. How they drove to the flat in Worli. How she prepared the shawl, the sedative. And the very moment she signaled Rai and Sanjeev to hold Sheena's hands while she strangled her. This testimony, instead of mitigating, increased Indrani's level of cruelty in the eyes of the jury. A woman willing to exploit her ex-husband, control her subordinates, and kill her daughter just to protect her reputation. Tears were shed in the courtroom, including some reporters who had watched Indrani with admiration. Rahul Mukherjee, Sheena's lover, was one of the most emotional witnesses in the courtroom. He recounted the days when Sheena went missing, the unusual text messages from Sheena's number user, and the pain of realizing that the girl he loved had been murdered by her own mother. On May 18, 2022, after nearly 7 years in custody, the Supreme Court of India granted bail to Indrani on the condition that she does not leave Mumbai, does not contact witnesses, and must appear in court monthly. She has not yet been sentenced as the trial continues to complete the remaining evidence before a final verdict is given. However, in the eyes of the Indian public, press, and public opinion, this trial was not just a criminal sentence, but a painful lesson about a society covered by a glamorous appearance, where fame can turn maternal love into crime. Sheena Bora's body has been found. The trial is drawing to a close. But no sentence can restore what was lost. A young, intelligent girl, eager to live and love, rejected, manipulated, and ultimately murdered by the man who gave her life. Mikhail Bora, the only surviving brother, once said in court, "Ji ta thong gi nung bai kuch na vi chati ti trong phim, ten heng vien, and nay la ko that. Nung kan gi trong kao chai nay la, ko that. Vanung gai enchi siam ti rijung toa kung law that." The lesson is not just for the law, but for all of us. That the truth cannot be buried forever. That fame cannot replace love. And that, when a mother no longer loves her child, it is society that must speak up.